See, I don't believe anything that the mass media, mainstream media is telling us in regards to war. Again, learn my lesson. Okay. I think we all should have learned our lesson by now, the various different narratives that they push. And anyway, get a lot of independent thinkers out there, basically saying that entire narrative that the Ukraine's counteroffensive is this big win, not working that way. And we're starting to see Zelensky coming up with excuses. And, he just did an interview with Fareed Zakaria and saying, well, we didn't have enough of the weapons in the right period of time and we couldn't start it. Now, again, that might be true. That might be true. I don't know. But I gotta talk about something that Zelensky said in The Economist. And this, gotta be honest with you, this bothered me. It should bother you. Okay. And again, I'm going to use his words and you can kind of try to, understand what he's saying here, but I think it's pretty much plain as day. But again, I'm going to let you decide. Curtailing aid to Ukraine will only prolong the war, and it would create risks for the West in its own backyard. There's no way of predicting how the millions of Ukrainian refugees in European countries would react to their country being abandoned. Ukrainians have generally behaved well and are very grateful to those who sheltered them. They will not forget that generosity, but it would not be a, quote, good story for Europe if it were to drive these people into a corner. Is he threatening? I mean, I'm sorry here. Does it sound like that, okay, if we stop sending weapons, the West stops sending weapons and giving the Ukrainians aid, that the refugees and the surrounding countries are going to battle back and commit acts of terrorism? Am I reading this wrong? I'm sorry, people. I mean, how else would you take it? I mean, how else would you understand that? That, they're backed into a corner. So we stop giving aid, then I don't get it. In the same interview, Zelensky tripled down on prior repeat vows to never negotiate with Putin or to contemplate ceding territory. Tapping loudly on the table, Zelensky rejects outright the idea of compromise with Vladimir Putin. War will continue for as long as Russia remains on Ukrainian territory. A negotiated deal would not be permanent. The Russian president is in the habit of creating frozen conflicts on Russia's borders, in Georgia, for example, not as ends in themselves, but because his goal is to restore the Soviet Union. Those who chose to talk to the man in the Kremlin are tricking themselves, much like Western leaders who signed an agreement with Adolf Hitler at Munich in 1938, only to watch him invade Czechoslovakia. The mistake is not diplomacy. The mistake is diplomacy with Putin. He negotiates only with himself. Again, if this is the case, this meat grinder is going to go on for years. He also said in the interview that societal transformation toward total war could be next. Meanwhile, a long war of attrition would mean a fork in the road for Ukraine. The country would lose even more people, both on the front lines and to emigration. It would require a totally militarized economy. The government would have to put that prospect to its citizens. Said he's morally ready to switch into this, but he will only broach the idea with his people if the weakness in the eyes of his Western backers becomes a trend. Has that moment come? No, not yet, he says, thank God. Again, this is kind of, you're either with us or against us rhetoric, almost, George W. Bush-esque to some degree. Now, why am I bringing this up? I'm letting you decide, because guess what? You're not going to hear about this. Okay. Fox is not going to report on this. MSNBC is not going to report on this. ABC, they're not. It's in The Economist magazine. Again, I don't know what their subscription base is, but I know it's not that widely read here in the United States. So isn't this important? Shouldn't the American people know about his thoughts? That's why we're providing them to you. You decide. WatchDog on WallStreet.com.